Uzan looking, still looking. Finds Tugler. Tugler back to Uzan. Uzan scores! Uzan scores! Uzan from the left block scores with .8 on the clock. Boy. The inbound to Tugler. Tugler back to Uzan. Lays it up and through. Yes. Cougars lead by 2. There is time on the clock.
COUGAR the inbounder. Uzan ready. Looking. Uzan holds it in his hip. Fires it left side. Bounce back to Uzan to the rim. He lays it in. 62-60. 8/10 of a second remaining in this one.
Seventh heaven for Houston. The Cougars advance to their 7th Final Four.
Welcome back to the Scott Holm Podcast. Your Houston Cougar men's basketball team is in the Final Four of the NCAA tournament.
Let's go, baby. Let's go.
Like, I think the game ended, we'll say like 15, 20-ish minutes ago here on Sunday afternoon. 3:50-something your time, 1:50-something my time here. Even though they were, believe it or not, like you would look in the most abstract sense at today's 69-50 win over Tennessee in the Elite Eight and think like, okay, well that was pretty stress-free. And it was a whole lot more stress-free than the endings of the Sweet 16 game, which we will discuss on this episode, and your previous round of 32 win over Gonzaga, which was a game you led for a while and then had to kind of cling on for dear life at the end. I think we were all, even though there might have been points in the second half where that big final margin belies how stressed we were, because it's just like, oh, Tennessee's looking like they might get back in here. It was a wire-to-wire win over one of the best teams in the country. An exclamation point on the insane resume that Houston Cougar men's basketball had this season, the insane season this team is having. Words almost fail me, Bobby. How you feeling? Now we're talking once again on this podcast. I think it's insane also that, I mean, I feel differently about this Final Four than I did the last one. Not that I wasn't excited about it, but you did the Final Four last time. It's like, okay, your reward here is Baylor, who is, treating everyone like a wheat thresher. We're the team that's treating everyone like a wheat thresher right now. Like, that's us. We're the big bad in this tournament. Like, it's just been it's been so cool to see, man. I will stop talking here and pass it off to you. How you feeling after that Cougar win and just thinking about another Final Four?
Dude, it's incredible, man. It's a Final Four. Like, it's hard not to look back at us sitting in 2009, and there's a picture that popped up of me, Dustin, and a friend of ours named Ryan, and we're like jaw dropped over the fact that we won a Conference USA championship tournament. Conference USA championship tournament. We shouldn't have won that game. We were pumped. We drove 12 hours or 10 hours, however far it was, to Tulsa to watch this game and to watch us win. Even going from that to where we are now is unfathomable. But there were years before that, man, where you just, as much as I would love to sit here and say that those 07, 08 teams were not good and all this kind of stuff, they weren't great, right?
They were fine. They were fine for what money was going into the program.
Exactly, man. But you just look at it, and I remember, a lot of people love to tell their stories about how they remember Sampson having to go out and do all this, the legwork to get people to come out, and it's awesome. But I remember before that, man, when Hoffines, it's so funny. Sorry to sidetrack again. But
no.
But you see people who were there for like early Sampson years, and they're like, I remember when Fertitta Center was empty and nobody was there, and it's like
Hoffines, but yeah,
or Hoffines, yeah. Sorry, thank you. When Hoffines was, nobody was there and all this stuff, and it's like, I remember before you guys remember, like, and there are people who remember before I remember, and we are a Final Four team 2 times in the last 5 years. That's insane, man. That's insane.
I think about 2 different games at the end of the James Dickey era. I can't remember if these fell in the same season. They might have been like one before the other, but I remember back when taking a night off work, but you and I have both lived this, like we were both, not to brag on each other, but we were both successful enough that and we're both salary, but if we lost a day of salary, it's just like, oh, well, I don't like that I lost a day of salary, but it's just like, okay, well, this is not changing my financial outlook in any meaningful way. I took a night off work when a night off work was like a meaningful amount of money for me to go with Dustin to a Tudor Fieldhouse on the Rice campus to watch U of H at Rice. And
that was the 2013 season, and I'm only
2013.
saying that because I am looking at it on KenPom.
Yeah, that's right. 12-13 and 13-14 was Dickey's final season.
Yeah,
I
14,
believe. And 14-15 was Sampson's first. So 12-13, I go to that game, and this was in Rice basketball, a program that I think is almost synonymous with being terrible. This might have been their worst team this century. KenPom might say so. I don't know. I've not looked at your
buddy. Sorry to interrupt yet again. What do you think KenPom finished that season ranked as?
Rice?
Yeah.
It was like I think it was like 340 something D1 teams at that time. I'll say 315.
325.
325. So I watched U of H blow a halftime lead to lose to the 325th best Division I program. I remember J.J. Thompson, our point guard at the time, and I can't believe J.J. Thompson made his way into a pod about the Final Four. J.J. Thompson, to like cut the lead to like 8 late on when like cutting it to 8 didn't mean anything, got teed up afterwards. And I just looked over to Dustin at Tudor Fieldhouse. I was like, this has to be rock bottom. This can't be any worse. And then the next season, when I was actually for a brief period living over for I think a year or so, close enough that it was about a 15-20 minute walk from my doorstep to U of H, I went and watched Tulsa, and that was like a good Tulsa team that year. That was actually, I think, Danny Manning's last year there. They went to the NCAA tournament as the CUSA team, I believe, because I believe that was the year they were in that league and we were in the AAC. No, I could have my year scrambled. Anyway, I watched a Tulsa team that was pretty good, but not like top 25. Just absolutely dog walk us, and I was so mad about it. I left before the game hit zero. I left with I think the under 8 media timeout, and just thinking, why did I waste my evening on this? I could have done anything else, but I walked over to fucking Hawthorne's to watch this. And so I feel
hold on. I have to tell you the order of your story, and I love this because I'm looking at it on KenPom. Both of those games happened in 2013. Sam, Tulsa game.
I lived in this place from like beginning of 2013 to beginning of 2014.
Sam, that Tulsa game, we lost by 15.
Yeah.
Buddy, you went to the Rice game after that Tulsa game.
I'm such a bad decision maker. Yeah, it could have been 14 because 14 Tulsa was in the CUSA still and we were in the AAC.
Sorry, that's so funny to me that you're like, I went to this Tulsa game and we got dog walked in. I went to this Rice game. I can't believe I went to the Tulsa game after I watched this get beat by. No, buddy, you went to the Rice game after.
Yeah. 87, they beat us 87-72. Despite a 15-point effort. It was a classic Daniel House effort. 15 points, but you couldn't remember a single remarkable thing he did in it. I say all this because it feels right now, it feels like you and I just stumbled into an alternate timeline. Like this shouldn't have been what happened with Cougar. And like, I'm not like, this isn't a big exercise in us patting ourselves in the back of like, oh, we were Cougar. Like this is just to say that you could be anyone and appreciate how good this team is. You don't need what you and I lived through, but what you and I lived through watching this program before Kelvin Sampson turned it into one of the very, very best in the sport, I think just gives you an added appreciation for what he's done. Yeah. For what he's done. There have been some great coaches at the University of Houston. Like, I don't say this lightly. You know, I might say, like, I'll leave it like Dave Williams and Tom Tellez. I'm not going to say Sampson is better than those two guys, but football, men's basketball, there is not a better coach in this university's history than Kelvin Sampson.
Yep.
And I don't think you even needed to have today's result to make that happen, but a second Final Four, the 7th in program history, to go to two. I think the idea of this program going back to a Final Four after Phi Slamma Jamma for so many years, it was inconceivable, almost laughable. Like we would see the pregame hype video and see his clips of Hakeem, Michael Young, Clyde Drexler, the glory days of this program. Then you snap back to where you were and think, man, we're still in this dumpy gym barely head above water in Conference USA or the American. So to be here, to see Houston Cougar men's basketball now be the standard of the sport, that it's inconceivably fucking cool. Inconceivably
It's crazy,
cool.
man. It's
So let's
crazy.
talk about those basketball games.
Yeah,
I think we should go most recent first. Though I think we'll both have plenty to say about the just heart pounding Sweet 16 win over Purdue. But we'll talk about what was, I think, mercifully less dramatic. I think we were all, as a fan base, owed a win that didn't have nearly as many heart and mouth moments to get from point A to point B on a 69-50 win where the Cougars never trailed against the Tennessee Volunteers themselves. Like, as much as the Cougars made them look decidedly second best for 40 minutes of basketball, like, nearly won the SEC. Like, as much as I think we've laughed about just the, I think, insane amount of hype that conference has been given, very good basketball league. One of the very best teams in a very good basketball league. And at times, they barely looked like they belonged on the same floor as you.
Yeah, it was absolutely just a pure domination. I felt like it was going to be a good offensive day when JoJo Tugler got our first 4 points. If JoJo Tugler is going to play like that, I don't know who can stop us. You had LJ making a pretty early 3 to get it to 9-2, and then it was just game on from there. This defense was stifling. You beat a Tennessee team who, like you said, as funny as it is to call like the 5th best team in a conference, they finished 4th in the conference, but buddy, they were pretty good. They were a number 1 defense on KenPom for a lot of the year when it was us or them for most of the year. And it was just pure domination. You beat them at the game they wanted to beat you at. You outchanced them, you out-rebounded them. As much as I'm going to jump back a game, that Purdue game was kind of an old school, quote unquote, old school Kelvin Sampson game where you depend on second chance points and you grind one out and you just win by being the tougher team, the better team. This game was, we're the better team. We are going to come out. We are going to absolutely dominate, and we're going to win this game.
Yeah. I think the early strong offensive start, because this is, and when we talked about before this game, when you and I made our cases of, I said why I'd rather see the Cougars face Tennessee. You said why you'd rather have them face Kentucky. And again, I don't think there was a wrong answer to that question. This is not me trying to do a victory lap on my answer here, but Tennessee was a good team to get in an early hole. Like they had some players with offensive skill, like believe it or not, Chaz Lanier and Zakai Ziegler, better offensive players against most human teams than U of H, a team that is, I would say, decidedly not human when it comes to defense. A decidedly more difficult matchup than what Mr. Ziegler and Mr. Lanier got previously. But guys who are very accomplished guards, I would say, on the bounce. Really only one guy on that team gave you problems. I think for stretches, Jordan Gainey, the Cougars really had problems with him. But even Jordan Gainey was like, okay, like, this isn't sustainable. Like, they can't rely on this guy to single-handedly keep them in this game. Eventually, Water's going to find their level with this guy. But I think it has to start with the job they did on those guys. Bobby, did you see this episode is so recent that KenPom does not have the box score up yet, so I had to go to the worldwide leader. Did you see what Ziegler and Lanier combined for in this game?
No, but if I had to guess, it was probably like 6 of 22 or something crazy like that.
Not that far off. 5 of 27.
Okay. Yeah. 5
of 27 from Tennessee's 2 best guards.
That's insane.
Yeah, to get in that early, to get that early lead, which I think no small part because Tennessee just could not hit a shot against you early, but that made me feel good. Not that I wasn't a little bit stressed when Tennessee cut to 50-40, when it just seemed like, all you could probably say is for a lot of the game, that the Cougars couldn't get the same kind of whistle that their opponents got. I won't say I was entirely feeling free of stress and free of worry in those moments, but this was a good opponent to get out to an early lead against. Like Kentucky, for any of their flaws, and I mean enough flaws that Tennessee sent them home pretty decisively last round. Kentucky was the kind of team that could have shot their way out of this. Tennessee, as soon as we got out to, I think 29-12 or something late on in the first half, I was just like, they're not getting out of this. Like I wasn't ever confident enough to put it on like social media or even text it to you or any other friends. Believe me. Like, I know the moment I do that, it's going to be the moment something very bad happens.
Mm-hmm.
But this wasn't the level. This wasn't like Gonzaga. Like we said it in the round 32 game, as cool as it was to be up on them early, like that's too good of an opponent offensively to truly feel comfortable. Like, okay, we can boat race the rest of the way. No, they're too good. They have too many different ways of scoring. And Tennessee essentially had 2.5 ways of scoring. Jordan Gainey, a good bench guard, but a guy who was way outperforming, I think, over the early stretch, what he's actually generally capable of, and their two guards, Lanier and Ziegler, who just not hit anything for the vast majority of this game. So great job there defensively and great job offensively. I think starting inside to outside. Tugler, like you said, got the first 2 buckets. Lonnie was involved early, though, did sit most of the first half with foul trouble. But that's what Houston Cougar basketball wants to do offensively, going the inside and then get good looks to the likes of Sharp, Cryer, and Uzan, which I think you also saw at times, even if those 3 guys weren't necessarily hitting like a vintage clip. I will say some of that also you gotta count the opponent too. Like if you're like, well, why didn't we shoot like 50% from 3? I mean, you were basically playing the other team that profiles like you defensively in the sport.
Mm-hmm.
Like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's also kind of ridiculous to expect you to shoot. I mean, on the season, you're shooting 40%. You shot 36% from 3. You shot 42% from the field. Like, you can't ask for a better offensive performance out of a team, especially one that's playing a team that's KenPom top 3 in defensive efficiency. Like, that would just be a ridiculous thing to ask or even expect.
Overlooked guy, I think, in this one, even though I don't think he did as much in the second half, but Arsenault gave you some good minutes when you were trying to figure out some lineups when Wani was in foul trouble in the first half.
Oh yeah. I think Terrence Arsenault. It was funny. You and I were actually talking during the game that, like, man, he just seems to just not have it all the time. Like, he just, like, there's a small pause whenever he gets the ball and he's just not firing. And then immediately, what's he do? He fires up 2 threes, catch, shoot, doesn't pause, think about it, and he goes off for 8. And really, his buckets, the 8 that he got, you know, you hear 8 and you're like, yeah, I mean, that's good and everything. It was more when he got his buckets that really kind of just felt good. No one seemed to be making many shots at that moment. And Arsenault comes out and or comes onto the court and just makes some big shots.
Yeah, the 8 points came at a critical time, and the critical time when you had one of your key starters not out there with foul trouble. Like you were trying to bridge a gap there, and the fact that you were able to not just not let Tennessee back into this game, but actively make Tennessee's situation worse when you didn't have Roberts out there. Like I think that was really good.
I think the craziest thing to look at when you look at this game and you look at the stats is these Tennessee shooting stats. Sam, they shot 29% from the field. They shot 17% from 3. I know that Tennessee's not known for their offense, but it's not like they have a crappy offense. It's not like they have a terrible offense.
Top 20 in offensive efficiency coming in. I don't know what they're at now, but they were definitely, I think, like 16, 17 coming in.
Yeah, spoiler alert, really, really good at basketball. I mean, yeah, they were 17, or it's currently showing 17, and I think that includes the game that just played.
Yep.
So they're 17th, like you said, top 20 in offensive efficiency. We're about to step up some offensive ratings for teams, but man, you took a team that, you know, has shown that they can score and just absolutely suffocated them.
Also, I think some good minutes from Malik Wilson.
Yep.
Like it's just classic Malik giving you giving you minutes, giving you toughness, giving you defense when you desperately needed it.
Yeah, I mean, Malik, once again, you look at the stat line, you go, okay, 3 points. That doesn't impress many people. 4 assists, 7 rebounds, a
That was
block.
big. The 4 assists are big.
The 4 assists, 7 boards from Malik Wilson, and a block. Yeah, I'm cool with that. You can be that from Malik Wilson every single night, and I am very, very excited about what this team can do.
And this game was about the worst case scenario in terms of Jalen Roberts being out there just because of foul trouble. Like 16 minutes, I guess that's got to be his like lowest minutes since I'm sure it's the lowest since the Colorado game. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he actually played 5 fewer than against SIUE when you were able to pretty aggressively rest your starters there, which I guess now that you've gotten to the win, it almost feels fortuitous. Like you didn't potentially have him out there risking an injury. Like he's the one guy on your 5 that's actually like had a recent injury out there, and that know that you have him and Tugler ready to go for Duke when you're going to need every bit of him and Tugler for their defense. Yeah, it's going to be a challenge there, but I think showing that you were able to survive that, I think that's really key.
Yeah, I think you showed today. You know, I've kind of said this to you during the season, because you know we listen to a couple of basketball podcasts, right?
We do.
At least one that we listen to together. I don't know if you listen to another one that I listen to, but anyways,
I think Ion College basketball. It's Ion College basketball. CBS.
Yeah, we listen to which is really good, and I love Norlander. I love Gary Parrish, but one of the things that I just kind of noticed is this team's under the radar, man. It's crazy that this team gets talked about very little. Another different one I was listening to was just mad disrespectful. Like, I don't trust Houston. And it's like, buddy, we're a top 3 KenPom team season.
That's why you don't go outside the Ion College basketball podcast, Bobby. You know.
And so it's just like I was listening to that yesterday, and they're like, oh yeah, I don't trust Houston's weapons, and I'm like, you haven't watched the Houston game this year, then, because yes, I will never say that our 3 guards show up, our 3 weapons show up every game, but 2 of the 3 are going to show up and make you pay. He says before something happens in the Final 4 game. No. But I mean, it's happened all season. We just look good, man. The guard play is something different that sets this team apart.
If anything, the fact that you have 3 guys in well, I mean, as I say, 3 guards and Cryer, Uzan, and Sharp, that you only need 2 of those 3 to have like a decent-ish shooting game. Because that's what you got in this one. Like you didn't have skip ahead of the Purdue game for a moment. Obviously, that one was very much Milos Uzan at times carrying you. You did stretches from Sharp in that one, but like that was a Milos Uzan effort, very very much.
Oh yeah,
this one, like you got contributions of a lot of guys. Like you had LJ Cryer not having a vintage game, but again, also LJ Cryer also gave you 7 boards and 4 assists today. So like, and that's easy to forget. Like it's easy to forget LJ, and that's what's grown so much in his game here in his 2 years with the Cougars, is that you already knew when he came from Baylor. Like this guy was one of the best shooters in the Big 12 at Baylor. He came here to get better at the other stuff and keep growing as a scorer. I'm sure he has improved measurably in that department, but where he's really grown has been his ability to do other things that affect winning, and that's what he did for you today. Even going a 6 of 17 from the field, that you wouldn't call it a great vintage LJ Cryer game, but he did so much other stuff there as well. JoJo Tugler able to give you 24 minutes today without being in foul trouble. Like that's big. Yeah. Like that wasn't what JoJo Tugler was giving you in January, February. Like he was still giving you good stuff then, but he was having a lot harder time staying on the court. He was having a lot harder time doing the things he does because, and I think the great thing is you have Javier Francis, who I don't think he gives you exactly what JoJo Tugler does, because nobody gives you exactly what JoJo Tugler does. But having him out there as much as this, having him I think pretty consistently show an ability to like stay on the court more than he was early in the season. Like that's growth. Like this is still a pretty young sophomore relative to like people in his class's age. This guy who's only played 2 seasons of college basketball and missed a decent chunk of the end of the first one. Like there's still so much potential that JoJo Tugler has to untap.
Mm-hmm.
And very, very key part to the Cougars winning this one.
Yeah. The bigs will always play a huge role in a Houston Cougar. And in the way Sampson builds this roster. I know they're not always the longest, or not always the tallest, not always the biggest. It always seems our bigs are undersized, but you can put any of our bigs out on a guard, and sure, they might not keep up with them perfectly, but they're going to at least make you shoot a contested shot.
Doesn't hurt when you have like 2 big men you can run out there with like 7'5" plus wingspans and Tugler and Francis too.
Absolutely,
it's a nice equalizer. We talked a lot of the game. Can I very briefly bitch about the referees in this game?
Go ahead.
Like, I'm sorry, man. Like Tennessee getting called for 9 fouls total, and like 4 of those were late intentional ones. Like, I'm sorry, man. This team didn't commit 5 plays that should have resulted in a foul in 40 minutes. Like, it's a crock of shit. Like, does it deserve more than a minute or 2 at the very end of talking about this game? No, I'm not gonna do that. That's subject you to that, Bobby. Not gonna subject the listeners to that. And I think the most egregious example, Milos Uzan gets literally tackled and like has to call a timeout. He's on the floor, and it's just like, and I don't think they called. There were some calls I didn't like on the Cougars, but in a vacuum, just looking at the fouls called on Houston, I don't think there were an insane amount of ticky calls. Like, I would rather this game get called like this than like the crew that did the Alabama game at the start of the season come in here and like 6 guys on both teams have fouled out and the teams have shot like 60 something free throws. Like, that's garbage. Like, I'd rather have watched this than that. But I'm sorry, man. Like, Tennessee's a good defensive team. Tennessee did not commit like a handful of fouls that weren't intentional in this game. Like, I think it was just absurd. And there were a couple examples of like very, very significant volunteer player contact that just didn't merit a whistle for whatever insane reason. So, did that deserve to be like mentioned before anything else important? No, but like I just had to say my piece here. Like I think it was, I think it was they were weirdly unwilling to call stuff on Tennessee, not because of any kind of weird anti-U of H conspiracy. I'm not putting on my tinfoil hat here, but didn't love how that was called. There we go. I'm done, Bobby.
All right.
So we should talk about the Sweet 16 game.
Yeah, let's do it, bud.
A little more stressful, a 62-60 win by your Cougars over the Purdue Boilermakers. And if you had told me at halftime, like this game's going to come down to the final, like the Cougars will have the ball with the game tied 2 points, whatever. What was it? It was like 2.8. No, what was it? I want to get this right. I'm going to go find the clip of the last sequence here. I want to see what it was when we got the. If you had told me with a handful of seconds left in this game that it was going to be a tie game, the Cougars were going to have the ball with a chance to hit a bucket to, go up with not much time left, I would have been stoked because we were down at the half and shot like absolute garbage for most of the first 20 minutes of the game. Mm-hmm. Like, were it not for Milos Uzan, this might have been your worst shooting half of the entire season. Yep. So I would have been happy about that. If you had told me when we were up by 10 that this game would be coming down to the final shot, I'd be like, oh my God, what went wrong before this?
Yeah. When we're up 10, you kind of felt a little comfortable, like, okay, yeah, I think we're going to separate here. Even when it was 8, when it was 40-32, in that range, you're kind of, or 5 minutes into the second half, sorry. My brain just kind of quit working there. And then when it gets to 10 with 8 minutes left to go in the second half, you feel pretty good there, and then suddenly the offense just stops. You go from a 57 or 56-46 lead all the way to a 57-55 lead. It got tight. You felt like this game was going to be not as close as it was. I think this game didn't look how I thought this game was going to look at all. This game really turned into a knockout, drag-out defensive struggle between the two teams. And looking at Purdue, you didn't see that, right? You didn't see Purdue being this defensive juggernaut who was going to stop everybody and make sure everybody was not scoring. But they really stifled this Houston offense. And with that kind of stifling there, you saw this Cougar offense kind of struggle a little bit, but Cougs hit big buckets when Cougs needed to hit the big bucket. We got to talk about that last sequence. I will say it here. That was absolutely a push off by Milos Uzan, but you had plenty of opportunities to still stop us. If I'm a Purdue fan, I'm breaking a TV. That is absolutely. I'm screaming that needs to be called.
File it under Milos Uzan not getting any calls, trying to break the press against Gonzaga.
I am not trying to.
You want to call there? You want to call there? Like, sorry.
I am not going to say, oh, but what about this? No, it was a push off. But guess what? You could have stopped them at the ball under the basket. You could have not been in that situation in the first place. Just like I didn't bitch about Milos not getting a call when he was getting slapped versus Gonzaga. You still had an opportunity to stop it. It was absolutely a push off though. And if I'm a U of H fan or if I'm a Purdue fan, like I said, I'm breaking the TV. I am not going to sit here. I'm
agreeing with you, by the way. I'm agreeing with you. Like
I will never be someone who sits here and be like, yeah, but what about the goaltending in the first half? They can miss calls both ways. Yeah. One doesn't make up for the other. That was two terrible calls. But you still got to defend that inbound play if you're Purdue. It's not like it cost you the game. It's not like he pushed off like Jordan did and made the shot and it was over. You still had a chance to stop the play, cry somewhere else, Cougs win, get the bucket when they need it. What a play design by Coach Sampson there. Execution by Tugler to make that pass. That was such a good pass. Such an underrated pass. Uzan getting 2 feet back into reestablishing himself, making himself a legal player in time. Just great execution by the Cougs all the way around.
It's what we talked about with Tugler. Like, what jumps off the page at him or off the screen at you is the shot blocking, it's the athleticism, the offensive rebounding, that kind of stuff. He's also a skilled offensive player. He's more skilled as an offensive player than he gets credit for. He's a smarter player than he gets credit for. You just think of him as, okay, he's this guy with this crazy wingspan and this shot blocking ability and offensive rebounding ability, but like, he's also a really smart basketball player. And I think we haven't ever seen it in a bigger moment than this one. I looked it up, by the way, 2.8 seconds. It was 2.8 seconds was the start, yeah. And they gave Purdue, I think, 0.9 when it was all said and done once they reviewed, which I've already done my ref rant on that, but it's just like more of an end of games thing. Like, come on, we're giving teams quasi timeouts here.
Yeah,
like
that is insane.
And
add a tenth. You take five. You take a minute to add a tenth.
Yeah,
that isn't going to make a difference. No one was like, oh man, now they have 9/10. Like, you add half a second. Okay, I get that. But it's clear that it's pretty damn close. But it's like we're going to double check our work when it's 2 + 2 is 4. And it's like, yeah, I mean, that's 4. But hold on, let's make sure and let's get out our counting squares from kindergarten. Yeah. Like, no, the clock operator knows what they're doing. You didn't see a problem with it. Like, it's so frustrating. And Purdue used all their timeouts earlier. Why would you not use your timeouts earlier on an inbound play that's going to cost you a 5-second?
You almost know that you're gonna get a free timeout.
You're going to get a free timeout.
Reviewing something. Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone got timeouts. We got a free timeout on the inbound to Uzan.
Yeah.
We got a free timeout there. Granted, we had a timeout, but like, what are we doing here?
Fully agree. I'll give him credit. Like, Braden Smith, their little white point guard, really good. Like, I have respect for that guy's game. I don't think we have seen a better point guard performance against, I mean, not just for the fact he had 15 assists, but that's the thing that catches your eye from the box score, but he did a really good job keeping them going offensively. Like, I think if you want to point to, even though he didn't really contribute much in terms of putting the ball in the basket himself. You want to talk about like a guy who's the reason why Purdue didn't go quietly into that good night when the Cougars are up 10. It's Braden Smith. Like, he did a really good job against this aggressive Cougar defense. Like, it's tough. Like, it is. I think I say this as a biased Cougar fan. I think the Cougs are about the toughest assignment you could draw as an opposing point guard. And I'd seen some pre-game write-ups about how Purdue had struggled with the kind of things that the Cougars did defensively. And Matt Painter clearly had a great plan for it, but also had one of the very best point guards in the country at his disposal. And he did a great job keeping the Boilermakers going offensively.
Yeah, I would argue that Smith, that's one of the top performances we've seen out of a point guard in college basketball this year. What a performance by him. And again, you look at his stats and they don't jump off to you. The man had 15
besides
assists.
the 15 assists besides that.
Not just the 15 assists. He assisted on all 12 of their buckets in the second half. They did not score without Smith making the pass to score. It's insane when you really think about it.
Yeah. And I personally don't think it's a shame because I am a Houston Cougar fan on a Houston Cougar podcast here, but it's always kind of a shame that 15 assist performance is going to be story number 2 behind Milos Uzan getting that bucket late on the incredible blob play. And an incredible game from Milos Uzan, period. Because, I mean, if Milos Uzan has an okay game alongside his teammates, LJ Cryer and Emmanuel Sharp, to differing degrees, I would say definitely Cryer more than Sharp here, not having good shooting performances at all in Indianapolis. If you don't have that fantastic perimeter shooting from Milos Uzan, might be curtains on our season.
Yeah.
This was such a fine margins game. Yeah.
That's what makes this Cougar team so damn good is, it's very easy to say, if we don't have that performance from Milos Uzan, you go home. Yep, you sure do. But we did get that performance from Milos Uzan. Milos Uzan was the guy that night. There always seems to be a guy for this Houston Cougar team.
Fully agree. And yeah, that's why this team has only lost in regulation once this year. That's why this team has only lost once, period, since the calendar turned to 2025.
Yep.
Nice effort from Javier Francis too, off the bench as well. Mm-hmm. Wanted to make sure Javier gets his love. I don't feel for Javier because Javier is a key player on a team that has a very good chance of being the final one to cut down the nets in San Antonio. But it's just like he technically got a demotion to the bench, but like every time he handles the ball like around the basket, I'm just like, God, he's so improved. Like, remember 2 years ago and it was like, okay, like this guy's a great shot blocker and rebounder, but offensively it's just put your hands over your face and hope nothing bad happens when he gets the ball in his hands. And now he has post moves that I would have never fathomed Javier Francis being able to have in his arsenal. Yeah. Like being able to that's awesome.
Yeah.
And it was one of the very few players who actually because going into this, Purdue is one of the worst interior defensive teams in the country, and you didn't even hit 37% of your shots inside against them.
Yeah.
Like that's one thing. I mean, again, there are no ugly wins in the NCAA tournament. Like that, I believe that very much. But oh, buddy, like as I watched this game, as I bit my nails, and I was just like, come on, find a way to win this game. And it's just like, God, we cannot make a shot against the one of the worst interior defenses out there. Like, what is going? Like, why can't we? Like, I know we're never going to be an efficient team scoring inside. That's just not what this team does. It's a good offensive team, but you have 37 games now at this point, 38 games. That's just not what they do. But it's like, God, we can't buy a bucket inside against this team that apparently against anyone else can't defend it to save their lives. So that was frustrating. And you didn't really get Wani and Tugler involved offensively in the same way as you were able to subsequently against Tennessee. And that was frustrating as well.
Yeah, they clearly had a game plan for the bigs and what our offense was doing. And you could see Purdue was one, playing a home game. And two, you could see that they weren't prepared to lose like that. not that anyone's prepared to lose, but they definitely had a plan and said, we're going to make your, instead of working inside out to get those kind of pop threes that you expect so much, we're not going to let you get inside. That was their plan. And, it was the best plan and the best laid out plan, and they executed it damn near perfect.
Yeah, and there's a reason why Matt Painter's won a million games there as their head coach, and
yeah,
they had a week to plan, and they came up with a really damn good plan for your Cougars. Yeah, I think the big complaint about this has been that the Cougs had to play a de facto, or whatever you want to call it, road game in Indianapolis at Purdue. But I think the part that annoys me the most, and I cribbed this a little from the podcast you mentioned earlier, the Iowa College basketball. This was the only Sweet 16/Elite 8 game that was played in a football stadium. And that might end up being good prep for you because, and guys say this very, very consistently, like shooting the background of a stadium that large versus a standard college, a large college or NBA arena, it's different. Like it is absolutely different. There's a reason why you see a lot of like Final Four games, especially early on, teams shoot pretty poorly.
Mm-hmm.
But not only were you playing like road games to all the opponents that were there, especially the 4 seed that you got in the Sweet 16 game, but you also had to be the one Sweet 16 Elite 8 game being played at a football stadium.
Yeah.
My nuclear hot take here, if you'll allow me,
okay,
even though it would make it harder for people to get tickets and stuff, just play the entire thing in basketball arenas. Like, I know you want to get 50, 60,000 people for the Final Four. I'm sorry, like basketball outside, like once you get into like the low to mid 20,000s, basketball is not a good viewing experience for people who have all those other tickets.
Yeah, that'll be me in a week. I bought my ticket. Hopefully, yeah. I bought for the right session, but I will be in the nosebleeds. I will not enjoy my view for the game, but damn it, I will be in the arena building, for the game. I'll be in the arena.
Like, I'll talk about that. That is, I'm insanely jealous of you.
Yeah, it will be. I paid a pretty penny for him, but I am excited for it. Hopefully, the tickets I got are for the session that U of H plays. I probably went a little bit too early with this. I probably should have waited, but I was excited, Sam. Okay, what do you want from me, bud? I'm
lighting some incense. I'm crossing my fingers. I will be more excited than you would think I'll be if you text me like, hey, turns out I got the right session for that one.
Yeah, I will. I will be very excited if that happens.
So your thoughts on the Purdue game?
It to the point that you said. There's no ugly wins in March. I would say if you did have an ugly win in March, this is probably pretty damn close to it. Don't love JoJo getting in foul trouble. I think this just looked radically different than the game we saw today, which is really nice if you're a Cougar fan because it shows all the different ways the Cougs can win, right? Sometimes, looking at this, watching the game, it didn't feel like it was a very good performance in terms of defense, right? It didn't feel like a great defensive performance. Sam, Purdue only scored 60. Like, every time something like this happens, I'm always just like, man, I just feel like our defense wasn't, oh no, they only scored 58. It's just crazy what this is. Tugler, getting into foul trouble, not great, right? And you saw some of the effects of that. You didn't shoot well. I mean, you look at it percentage-wise, they outshoot you by 3%. From 3, you beat them 9 of 23. But it's what this team has always done. It's what this team has always been really good at, and it's second chance points. And again, this was a game that fit the analogy of what I said earlier in the season. The Cougs just come out, they kind of wear you down, and at the end, they're in it. It's not pretty. And yes, they may land a couple of shots, but at the end of the day, the Cougs are going to win on points. I mean, today's kind of a different example. But, usually the Cougs win on points, and it's just like, well, yeah, he just kind of wore us down, and that's kind of what happened there. I mean, the Cougs in that final play, you could see there were some lapses from Purdue in terms of thinking, and that probably wasn't helped by the fact that it was a hard fought game.
I was just gonna say, like, it's that, you know, the knockout punch fighter analogy that you said earlier in the season, and I think we've kind of stuck with as the season's gone on.
Right.
Because if you were a team that's only a knockout punch kind of team, like, that doesn't work. Like, some teams are not going to get knocked down. Like Purdue was not going to get knocked down playing a quasi home game.
Yep.
Like, I kept thinking about the parallel of 3 years ago when we played Arizona and San Antonio. Like, I didn't want to be Arizona. Like, I remember how much I enjoyed us ending 1 seed Arizona's season in San Antonio. It even kind of took like, I like Arizona's fan base. I really don't have anything against their team generally, but like, I'll admit, took a little perverse pleasure in them being like, "What? This is San Antonio." It's just like, you're a 1 seed. Yeah, it's not great, but you're a 1 seed. Like, you need to figure it the F out. And the Cougars, try as they might at times, they didn't, ultimately did figure it out and did find a way to be the last team standing there. I thought also, I keep meaning to mention this every game. I thought you did a solid job on Trey Kaufman-Renn.
Yeah.
Like, not his worst game this season, but you didn't allow him to take over the game either.
Absolutely.
Real quick, we're keeping this game mostly to reactions about the 2 games that have happened, but figure while we're here and on the topic, Bobby, just gut reaction. What's your thought when I say Duke basketball, your next opponent? I'm not limiting you to words. Like, I'd say just a few sentences ish.
Scary. I didn't think they were very, it was kind of a who have they played situation this year in the ACC. They've played good teams now, and they are absolutely dog walking them. So it is, if you're not worried about this game, I would be pretty worried.
My thing is this: Cooper Flagg's the big story because, and he is worth every bit of the hype he gets. Like, there have been some, anointed white Duke players that maybe I didn't think lived up to the ink they got. Cooper Flagg is, if anything, worth more ink than he's probably gotten. Like, that's how good this guy. Like, this guy should be a high school senior right now. But I think what makes Duke so scary to me, the team's not just Cooper Flagg. Like, obviously, if you subtract Cooper Flagg from the team, like, that's big. You're subtracting Cooper Flagg from a team. Like, that's going to have an impact. But there are a lot of other guys that can contribute to beating the Cougars potentially. Like, that's not just a one-man team. There are other, like, that foundation, that house of a team is built on a lot of key guys there. And that's why I think makes it a tough matchup, but also not a matchup the Cougars can't win either. Not a matchup I look at and think like, oh man, we're going to have to play a A+ game to hang around this one. Like it was last time we were in the Final Four against Baylor.
Yep.
Like, you're going to have to play a good game because it's a good opponent, but also you haven't seen anyone like Duke yet in the tournament, but it's worth reversing that. Duke hasn't seen anyone like the Cougars yet. Yep. Like, Duke, the level of defense that Duke's going to get hit in the mouth with on Saturday in San Antonio is not going to be like anything they've seen previously either. So I think it's a matchup worth being excited about for those of us in either fan base and I think the neutral fans as well. I think I saw Matt Norlander on social media, CBS basketball writer on the podcast that Bobby and I like, say something to the effect of like, this has the ingredients of an all-timer of a March Madness matchup. Yeah. And you have to kind of pinch yourself and be like, that's about my team.
Yeah, that's us.
An all-timer matchup involves the Houston Cougars. Like, oh, that's so cool. Which is
insane. I don't know when that won't feel weird, but it absolutely does feel weird.
Hopefully in a couple games after we've cut down the nets, and I'm thinking, do I come back to Houston to celebrate the championship or not?
Okay, so just a funny little story. So, I have a work trip that is on the 7th, and I am literally flying into New Orleans and out same day. My plane lands back home about 20 minutes before tip. Dude, if we win this game, there's a chance that I just drive to Waco, and then I just drive to Houston the next day and just go crazy. Just go crazy for a couple of days. You and I have discussed this. It will, if the Cougars somehow pull that off, right? The Cougs win that game.
Now, you have like a 25% chance right now to be the national champion. So
if the Cougs win that game, if they are national champions, Sam and I have said you will get probably the most inebriated Instant React show in all of Houston Cougardom. Can't wait. I would love the chance to watch it.
See if we can, although he might be in San Antonio for it, but I was gonna say, see if we can squeeze a certain co-host emeritus maybe on that as well.
Yeah,
I will actually be.
Great.
I will be visited. Just a plan to visit to see my my folks in Galveston for this. I don't think I'm going to schlep the 5-something hours from Galveston to San Antonio on Saturday. Thought about it. I don't think so. I think I'm just going to enjoy watching with my dad, which is cool. Like to me, being able to be back home watching with my dad alone, I think makes it a special game experience. And if I'm taking a red eye back on Sunday night, oh man, like I'm thinking about how if we were in the Natty game on Monday, like how little work I am going to get done because I'm just going to be thinking about the Natty. Well, one, I'll be coming off a red eye and just like, probably
Dude,
not.
I have to do like a big training for work. Like it's a big deal. Like there's going to be 20 to 30 people at this thing. Like I got to be locked in.
I know.
For that hour. I got to be locked in. But the other 13 hours before that, Cougars.
I'm hoping for a work day that actually gives me stuff to do, because otherwise it's gonna just be me maybe refreshing the ESPN screen for like stories about the game or just what have you. Like
just on social media, just following like Duarte, just like who's playing? Is Cooper Flag out? Cooper Flag's out, right?
Have they announced they announced the referees yet for this game? That kind of stuff.
Well, bud, we got two more. Well, we got one more. We got one more.
We got one more, and we are hoping for two.
We're hoping for two, buddy.
All right, take us home, pal.
All right, well, that's it for this Instant React. We went almost an hour, Sam. I guess when your team makes the Final Four, you can kind of go on for a little bit. Thank you to all of our followers, all of our listeners. If you want to give us some feedback, you can find us on social media, on Twitter at SH Podcast. You can find us on Blue Sky at podcast.bsky.social. You can just search podcast and we will pop up. And you can also follow us on Patreon. $5 a month gets you all the premium content. You can always donate more. We appreciate it so much. Everything that you guys do to contribute to this podcast. So that's it for this week. We appreciate you guys so much. You're our absolute favorites. We love doing this. And Sam, what do we always say about our Final Four team?
Go Cougs, baby.
All right. Go Cougs! Let's go!